Good morning, class, and welcome to week 2. Well, it was interesting to see all the responses and all the words of affirmation and encouragement that each person had in the first week, and just the new things that they were discovering and learning. I always love seeing that with everybody. One of the things that I found to be that was I noted in this last week as well in the comments and discussions. I have found every time I teach a leadership class, whether it's the undergrad or the master level, is that people say, I don't feel like I'm a leader. I don't see leadership qualities in me, or they see themselves as a less than because they are not in a specific position that says and speaks leadership on it. Let me just reassure you that a leader can be at any level in any sphere of life, any place. So because leadership is about influence, it's who I'm influencing. And believe me, whether you realize it or not, people are watching you. They see you, they see the things that you do. They see how, whether you accomplish and whether you complete what you're doing. They see how you handle situations that come about. They see how you respond and react to situations. One of the things we talked about was the ambassador characteristic this last week, and how do we handle conflict as a leader. And so believe me, you are being watched, whether it's little ones or our adults around you, and you are influencing them. Our pastor likes to say that to have a contagious spirit of generosity and joy and love, because you're contagious no matter what. If we are critical, we will have a contagious criticism that will go on to others, as well as what the people that are around us. Who are we? Who are we influencing? But then who's influencing us? So I say leadership is about influence. It's about relationships. And unless you live in total isolation, you have a place where you can say you have the ability to influence others. So I do understand that. I do understand not always recognizing it or feeling it. I think oftentimes people just they don't recognize that they have leadership. They don't recognize their giftings, their strengths, their qualities, or they may see it and they don't understand it. They don't know what it means. They don't recognize the importance of it. Um, let me let me give a little insight. I'll tell on myself here. I won't necessarily say this is leadership, but the Lord really gave me insight into this. So recently, I went to go get gas at a location, a gas station, and all the pumps were filled up except one, and it was empty, and it was right in front of it's all a self-service like a Sam's, and it was right in front of the booth where a gentleman stood in the booth, that he was kind of watching over everything and moderating. Well, this one pump that had nobody at it, of course, I was in a hurry, had a cone in front of it. Now, yes, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, the pump itself, the handle is not covered where I usually see like a yellow covering over it or something. So I'm in a hurry, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, does that cone mean it's the pump is closed, or is there some other reason? So, of course, my husband says I'm quirky here. So I thought I'm going to give it a try. So I pull up to the pump again, right in front of the little stand, where the island thing, where the guy was standing there, but he was on his phone playing. He was not paying attention to the customers. So I go ahead and I use my Sam's card and I pump the gas. Well, afterwards, it doesn't actually come up on my phone because it's a scan and pay, and it sits there and spins. So I walk over and I knock on the window. He comes out, and I said, this isn't pulling up. And he said, oh, well, let's just give it a minute, come back to the pump. We go back, he walks to the pump with me, And he looks at me and he says, "There's a cone here. This pump is closed." And I look at him and I'm like, "Well, I just got gas, so it's pumping." And he looked at me again and says, "I don't know what to tell you. I guess if you don't get charged, you'll have to take it up with Sam's then." I said, "Okay." He goes and he walks back in the stand, and that was the end of it. I finally got in my vehicle and I drove off. And I tell Mike about it later. And of course, he laughs his head off and he said, "What were you thinking? What were you doing?" Of course, a cone would mean that the gas station or that pump is closed. And I said, "No, it's when the handle is covered." That could have meant several things. And he has laughed and laughed and laughed about that so much. And, it's a little quirky thing. But afterwards, I was in this place and he and I were doing some of these like different personality tests. We've been doing leadership things and stuff like that. And we were in a situation, setting where everybody was doing personality tests again. And we were taking them. And as we were identifying things, and they were talking about it, um, and one came up, they were talking about the fact that people always see those certain types of leaders will see an opportunity in every problem. And just like that, I heard the Lord say, "You remember when you went to that pump? It's because there was a doubt in your mind as to whether that was the reason." And the Lord helped me to identify even more, even though it's quirky, even though my husband laughs like crazy at me over this. It helped me to identify some of the strengths that I have. Now, they can be out of line too. Um, but in that helped me to see. And the Lord spoke to my heart and he said, when you see that there is not a definite block in something, you always look to find the answer. You always look to find the solution. You always look to find a way. And he said, you know how to persevere through problems and difficulties and to push forward. You don't just give up. And it's such a quirky thing. Have you ever done quirky things and thought, why in the world? And people laugh about it. But there's a reason. There's a reason to our quirkiness. And that is that there's some things that we're created to, how we're created and stuff. And so even in that helps to identify how your leadership comes out, how you can influence. Now, I wouldn't recommend going to a pump that has a cone in front of it and attempting to get gas. I wouldn't recommend that. But look at some of the things you do that you don't understand, that you wonder why. Maybe even people question and ask the Lord, what is it about me? How am I created? And then how do I work with that to where it is the strengths, but I don't take it too far. It's within parameters so that it doesn't become a great weakness. So we all have influence. And that situation, while it was funny and it was a little bit embarrassing, it helped me to really recognize and appreciate some things about myself and to be able to look at that head on in other situations and to have confidence to say, yes, Lord, this is how you've created me. I see that, and I've seen it in other situations that I didn't recognize before. So yes, we all have that. Another thing I want to say is that I just wanted to share with you when I was in my master's for leadership, I felt the same way, and thought, this, I'm not a leader. Why am I here? What am I doing here? Of course, the Lord knows us better, and He knows where He wants to take us and how He wants to create us uh, to the place. When I say create us, we are created, but He wants to bring that out, the creation that's within us. So one of the books in my master's was the Relentless Pursuit of Excellence. That book inspired me. It inspired me greatly, just to see the difference and to recognize that these are places that we can grow in. Now, if I have to go back, if I could go back to that and really read through that. And then I would rename this book, though, The Relentless Pursuit of Better on My Way to Excellence. And the reason I say that is because we hear the word excellence in organizations everywhere, especially in churches, in Christian places. We hear it in education of that we have to be in this place of excellence at all times. Well, we are working towards excellence. We all want to be excellent. We all want to be at the final goal. But what happens is that we see only the final goal, and we don't see the place where we are a leader until we get to that final goal. And honestly, I don't know that we ever reach a lot of those final goals on this earth. I mean, we can, as far as status and position and pay and those kinds of things, but pursuing excellence, I don't know that there's an end goal to excellence. But we can every single day be on a relentless pursuit of better, of just bettering ourselves, bettering others, bettering the world. And that in itself is leadership. That is a leadership of life, not just in a specific setting, whether it's a job, whether it's your church, whether it's your family, but it's who you become and the perspective that you have in all the things that you do as you discover who you are, as you discover how other people around you operate. Then you know how to work with them to get the achieved goals that you're trying to get to. So for this week, now let me move on to this. One of the, I'm looking here at my screen. So the next, for this week, the characteristic that you will be looking at is advocate. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to pull up my phone here and I'm going to say, if you can see this on my phone, you probably can't see it, but I have this saying, yep, I don't think you can see that. But in my notes, I have a hashtag that says hope that brings joy. And the reason for that is because all of them, all of these scriptures that I have, is about Jesus being our advocate. So let me just say this: we find in Romans 8:34, it says Christ is the one who died and has risen, and he who is even at the right hand of God, who also makes intercession for us. He's our advocate. He speaks up for us. And then in John 17, it's the Jesus's intercessory prayer for us, where he prays for us and he prays that we will be one with him. And he prays not that we will be taken out of the world, but that we will be protected and that we will come and be able to stand firm in this world and be strong. And then we find that in Hebrews 7, where again we were told that therefore he's able to save us to the uttermost to those who come to God through him, since he always lives to make intercession for them. And you will find even more and more. We see that ultimately Jesus is our advocate. Jesus is the one who intercedes for us. Jesus is the one who has the voice, who speaks up for us. And so when you think about the characteristic of advocate this week, think about who around you that's in your influence, who around you needs you to speak up for them, needs you to be in their corner, needs you to advocate for them. See, like with my counselees and the ones I coach, especially the counselees, they're weak. They're very have a lot of things that they're trying to work through. They're very vulnerable, and so when we have situations that come up, say a court thing that's happening, they look to me as their counselor to be their advocate, to stand up for them, and to say, yes, this may be true that this is a situation that they're in and they've gotten themselves in. But I can also speak this about them. I can speak the good things about them. I can speak the positive things about them. I can speak the reinforcing things about them. I can speak on their behalf as to why I can see these things, as well as why maybe they should be considered leniency, or maybe they should be seen in a different perspective, or maybe they shouldn't get the judgment that someone else feels that they should get. That is an advocate. And so look around. Who are you an advocate for? Who does God want you to be an advocate for? Who's an advocate for you? See, we have to have in order to give. So look at that and look at where is it that God wants you to be, um, and to grow in, to expand in. And maybe there's places that you can actually celebrate and say, yes, yes, this is an area I'm doing well. That's good too, because we must celebrate the places that we have gotten better and better, and we are at that place of working in really good excellence and stuff. See, we want to celebrate these every single day. Um, and then, of course, our required reading, you're going to be reading about Abraham, Jacob, and Joseph, and the different types of leadership there as well. And then just looking at those again, I want to encourage you. I think I mentioned it in the notes and stuff, in the instructions, but I want to encourage you to read not only the Old Testament, and not just the Old Testament, not just the New Testament, but to read both of them, because you get a fuller picture of it. And oftentimes we see in the New Testament, especially in Hebrews, where it talks about the saints and all of that, we see those that have gone on before us. Those we see their successes. We see the things that God calls out, where He has been that advocate and said, "But this is what they have done. This is where they have excelled." Because He sees the bigger picture of our lives. He doesn't. It isn't that He doesn't see the little things and the individual things. He does, but He doesn't judge us, and He doesn't define us by those one-time individual things. He looks at us as in the bigger picture, as a whole of how He's created us over our lives. So I look forward to interacting with you again this week. I look forward to any questions that you may have. Speaking of questions, I did have a question. I saw that I had incorrectly placed on your notice for this week about a team project, and that is actually next week. That you will have a team project. So be sure and be looking at that already this week. All you have to do is basically look at what needs to be done, and then be contacting your team partner to make sure that you are setting up ways and stuff to be communicating for this team project. And then if there's any other questions, concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you on the discussion board. I'm loving the discussions, and if there's anything, just let me know. Otherwise, have a great week, and God bless you.